Hello and welcome to the special episode of the Monocle Weekly. It's all about the 97th Academy Awards. We start the show talking with the man behind it all, Bill Kramer, CEO of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. Bill Kramer, lovely to see you again after a few years from the last time we spoke. And now you're CEO of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. Bill, of course, I'm excited for the Oscars, and I don't think it's just me, but how are you feeling for this year? Because we've been through a lot. We've been through COVID. I mean, the whole cinema industry had to change. Are we getting out of this? Are you feeling very optimistic about this year Oscars and the cinema industry in general?
I'm feeling incredibly optimistic about this year's show. And first, I should say, Fernando, great to see you. It has been a while. I'm really happy to be back in touch. But the show is going to be remarkable this year. You've seen some of the presenter and performer announcements. We're going to have a beautifully entertaining night, an evening of celebrating cinema, global cinema. The Academy is a global organization, and we're all about bringing film lovers and the film community together to create a sense of unity and celebration. And no one does it better than the Oscars, meaning us. So I'm incredibly excited about this year's show. We have great nominees and an amazing slate of films. We have some blockbusters. We have a lot of non-US films, a lot of international films, a lot of great independent films, incredible performances. So the show is going to be great. And Conan is hosting for the first time, Conan O'Brien, and he is planning a hilarious and community-focused presentation, which is going to be great.
I was going to talk actually about Conan O'Brien because I think it's quite a challenge to choose a host, especially of the Oscars. But you guys, I mean, you did well because Conan is, I think he's hors concours. I mean, he's beloved by everyone.
Conan is loved by everyone. He is a new generation of fans thanks to his podcast and his television show that he's working on now for Max. He's hilarious. He's brilliantly witty, but he approaches everything with such humanity and compassion. He invites everybody in to participate, and that is key.
I want to talk to you as well, Bill, about, sometimes in the press there's been talk, when we talk about award shows in general, not necessarily only the Oscars, they say, are they necessary because of the ratings? But then I've been thinking, even in the office this week, everybody was saying, have you seen this film? It's been nominated for the Oscars. People talk about the Oscars. So it's not necessarily just the TV ratings, kind of the cultural impact. Do you still see the role of the award show, especially the Oscars? How important do you think it is today?
I think the Oscars still have incredible cultural impact globally. Unlike some award shows in the US, our award show has a global footprint and is becoming more and more global, which I think for your listeners and readers is very interesting. People love the movies, and people may be enjoying movies differently these days. Some people are streaming at home, but the world is making and watching movies more than ever. And we are at the center of that. And the Oscars do this better than any other show or organization. Our Academy does this. We celebrate cinema and bring the world's attention to the work of our cinema artists and professionals across disciplines. So as you said, the lead up to the Oscars and the night of, and even afterwards, I mean, people are still commenting on past Oscars, who they wanted to win versus who won or who didn't get nominated. It really invites the world to have a conversation around cinema. And that's so exciting. And it's still very prevalent.
Yeah, it's so funny how the comments go because it can be a performance, it can be a dress, it can be anything. It can be even the look of someone when somebody gets an award. It's a really kind of and how does the digital presence of the Academy is growing? I think you guys are very much connected to the audience. I did notice that, especially in the last year.
Oh, absolutely. And since I've been CEO, it's been about 3 years now. We've made a concerted effort to grow our social presence, our digital presence. And you're really seeing that over the last 18 months. So, going back to your comment about the Oscars and the impact of the Oscars, it's about the show. It's about the lead up to the show. It's about who's watching the show, but it's also about who's engaging with our social channels, which, millions and millions of people around the world. I mean, we said this earlier, we have so many Portuguese comments these days because of a current nominee and a current film that's getting a lot of great attention. So the world is communicating with each other through our social media channels, and that's really exciting, and that will only grow.
And I want to ask you about this year's ceremony. And of course, there'll be a lot of amazing stuff and perhaps a few surprises. We can talk about this later. But of course, Los Angeles had a very difficult time this year because of the fires. Was it a challenge? And how are you going to represent that at the ceremony? Or because, a lot of people that work in the industry have been affected as well.
We will definitely recognize the strength and resilience of Los Angeles. Los Angeles has been a home for movie making and creative visionaries for well over a century at this point. And we will have a moment to honor that on the show. It's going to be beautiful.
Do you still see, there's been a few years about the cinema industry, there's been some kind of, not a battle between streamers and studios and should you release your film straight on demand? Do you still see these conversations or have we're not discussing these anymore? Cinema is back, as you can see with the box office numbers. It was challenging during COVID, but I feel quite optimistic about the cinema industry. What's your take on that?
I do as well. I think it's important to think about all of this within the context of the history of the movies and the movie industry. And there have been technological shifts and disruptions from the beginning, going from silent to the talkies, black and white to color, the creation of television, the creation of cable TV, the creation of DVDs and VHS tapes, and now streaming and many things in between. And also now we're also dealing with AI. I mean, there have always been new tools for making art and making movies. And we're constantly looking at an evolving art form and industry. So I have great hope. We're not going anywhere. People may be creating and watching movies in different ways, but we're as relevant as ever. And we have to evolve with how films are being made and watched. I think that's key. Now, with all of that being said, there's nothing like sitting in a cinema and watching a movie because that's the proper projection and sound, and you can really engage with all components of movie making in the ways in which they were made to be enjoyed. But I think our industry is healthy, but things are shifting, and we have to pay attention to that.
I want to ask as well, what's your relationship with ABC? Of course, they've been showing the Oscars for years. Is it in a healthy position? So I wanted to know a little bit more because, of course, it's one of their big kind of events of the year as well.
We have a great relationship with Disney, and that means ABC, and then their international arm, Buena Vista International. The Oscars are shown in more than 200 markets around the world. We have 4 more years left on our contract with ABC, including this show. And we've had an incredible relationship with them that continues. So we're really lucky to have a great partner in Disney and ABC and now Hulu, which is part of their family. We're streaming live on Hulu in the US and on Disney Plus in some other markets around the world. So our relationship with Disney evolves and is stronger than ever.
Well, that's fantastic. And tell us, what are the surprises for this year's Oscars? I know you probably can't say much, but I mean, the Oscars are approaching its centenary as well. That's impressive. So
That's right.
4 more years or 3 more years for the
Our
centenary?
100th show will take place in 2028. Can you believe it?
Wow.
It's really exciting. So that's 27 is the 100th anniversary of the founding of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. 28 is our 100th Oscars. So we have a couple of big years in front of us and surprises on the show. I'm not going to give away anything that hasn't already been announced, but as you saw earlier today, we announced a slate of performers: Cynthia Erivo, Ariana Grande, Doja Cat, Lisa Ray, Queen Latifah. We have some amazing performances lined up. Again, Conan hosting is going to be brilliantly funny and will really bring the world together around cinema. We have great presenters lined up. We've had many announcements about that over the last couple of weeks. So you're going to see some incredible film stars on that stage. And it's going to be a beautiful evening of celebrating the collaborative nature of movie making. That's who we are and that's what we do. And only the Oscars can deliver this.
One thing that I'm curious, how brands approach Oscars, because I think it's so important to be associated with the Oscars. You have, Rolex, but you can mention other brands. Is there a lot of interest? Because as we just discussed, the Oscars are international. The Oscars, everybody's watching it somehow, if they're streaming or live on TV. So I wonder what's that side of the business?
Oh, that's a great question. And we have many, many, many partnerships with fantastic brands. I'll back up a little bit. A few years ago, or actually just last year, we announced something called Academy 100. And this is in honor of our 100th Oscars. This is a fundraising and global outreach campaign designed to raise $500 million US. We're well on our way to achieving that goal. And this was a moment to invite new individual donors, corporate sponsors, foundations, philanthropists to join us in ensuring a sustainable future for the Academy. So a lot of partners have joined us as part of that campaign. Rolex, you mentioned Rolex. We have an amazing relationship with them. The Dorchester collection, Delta Airlines, tons of fashion houses are joining us as part of this. That's mainly tied to our Academy Museum, which has really opened up a lot of fantastic corporate partnerships for us. So you're going to see this growing more and more. Another great partner is Dolby. We work with Dolby in a variety of ways. So all of this is to say the Academy, which is we're a nonprofit organization, we need the support of a diverse range of partners and sponsors and donors to have a sustainable future. And we're very, very grateful and lucky to be working with so many strong brands that are, I think, good brand alignments for us as well.
That's wonderful. And finally, just a little point I would like to bring. We're not discussing any specific films or nominations, but one thing that surprised me with the whole list of nominations, not only how international it was, but the variety of genres. You have from horror to animation, small indies. I love that because perhaps in the past people said, "Oh, there was an idea of what an Oscar movie is." I think that idea is being kind of challenged a little bit, right?
I agree. And I think this is part of the Academy becoming more global, more diverse. And I know you're seeing exactly what you just mentioned. More international, meaning non-US films, are being nominated across categories. This year, The Substance, which is a body horror film, which I loved, has been nominated in several categories. That's really exciting. So you're seeing, I think, a very healthy shift in welcoming in new genres, welcoming in international cinema in ways that we may not have seen in the past. And of course, a lot of independent films and big blockbusters. So you want to see the holistic nature of our film industry should be represented on our show and through the Oscars. And you're seeing that more and more, and that's really exciting.
Bill, what a pleasure. Have a fantastic Oscars.
Thank you very much, Bill. And now to discuss the Oscar favorites, what to expect, and more, I invite to the studio the wonderful film critic and Monocle Radio contributor, Karen Krizanovich. Karen Krizanovich, it's our annual little show here talking about the Oscars on the 2nd of March. It is an exciting time, isn't it?
It's very exciting. It really, if you love the cinema, this is your Christmas.
And let's talk about the Oscars this year. Before we talk about the controversies, the favorites, when you look at the 10 films here for Best Picture, is it a good year? Is it a vintage year? You can be honest here.
Is it a vintage year? It's difficult to say what a vintage year is because it's only when we get 10 or 20 years down the line can we look back and have that opinion. Right now, I think it's the best year we could have had, considering we've had strikes, writer strikes, and other things. We're still recovering from COVID, believe it or not, the industry. And I think there's enough variety here for everybody to be happy. There's something for young people or old people and people who don't usually go to the cinema, and some people want to see something sexy, and some who want to see science fiction, and some who want to see some international, something that's not in the English language, and even something with a little body horror.
I love body horror, as you know, and that's something that I actually liked. It. If it's a vintage year or not, the variety of genres is amazing, and I think the Oscars are becoming not only more international, but perhaps more open to those type of films.
I think so. You're the only person I know that really loves body horror.
I do. Honestly, if it's a body horror, I'm in.
Okay.
And we're talking, of course, about The Substance.
Yes, we are. Which actually, I took a friend who is very conservative in what he likes to see. It's science fiction, robots, and that's it. Loved it. Really loved it. So it's one of these things, and the cinema always expands our minds. If you go buy a ticket, you might not like it, but you might surprise yourself. And I think The Substance fits in that category.
One thing we must talk is about the dirty campaigns. I mean, this year we had people talking about the brutalist usage of AI. Some people are talking about Honora. They didn't have an intimacy coordinator. Carla Sofia Gascon, of course, and her tweets. I mean, what a year as well for drama.
It's great to have some drama. I mean, last year we just had a drama about somebody marketing their film wrong. Ooh, you didn't follow the protocol. That's a bit boring. But this year we have really proper discussions and proper scandals that illuminate the issues that are going on in the film industry itself. The use of AI and all sorts of other things, and attitudes to sexuality or gender or politics, and
even cancel culture in a way as well.
No, completely cancel culture. That's really under the microscope now, and it will be even more next year. So I think that these are, if you're going to have controversy, these are the right kind of ones to have because they do start people talking. And that's what we like.
We're talking about body horror here, The Substance. I have to say, I have a little soft spot in my heart for The Substance. Is there a film from the list? We're going to talk about the nominations in a minute. For you, is there a film that is quite special, that you're really going to cheer loud? Oh. I know you had involvements in one or two films, perhaps, right?
Yeah. I worked on Wicked. In fact, I worked on both of them because this is the first one. And it was such a great team. We had a huge team of over 50 different people in the art department. That's a huge department. And Nathan Crowley, who is the production designer, was a genuinely nice guy. I mean, he gave everybody, from HODs down to the assistants, the same Christmas gift, which is classy. Very classy.
That's chic.
Yeah, and chic. And so, also the film, from the script standpoint and from the making standpoint, it came out the way we wanted it to. And that doesn't always happen. So I've got a soft spot for the craft of Wicked and how people are responding to it. I'm talking to people who said, I didn't want to see it, but I cried. And I thought, that's fantastic. Personally, I like Conclave because I'm very old-fashioned. I like a good-looking set. Although my boyfriend was going, that's not right. Those finishes aren't right. The Brutalist, I actually, even though I hated it, I also loved it for its audacity and pretentiousness. And I'm still here. I mean, remarkable. Also, Dune Part 2, you don't care what's going on. There's sand and wind, but the effects are amazing.
It looks beautiful.
There's just so much. There's so much to talk about. I mean, even Emilia Perez, you just thought, whoa, I haven't seen, this isn't going to work. Oh my gosh, it's working. Or even Nickel Boys, which is a real POV, shot by shot, really a fresh take on a story that we've seen before.
Is there room for surprise in the Oscars? And I ask this because we have so many awards. We have the Golden Globes, the BAFTAs, even Cannes, because Cannes is becoming very important in terms of the films nominated here. And Venice as well. Is there room for surprise? Is the Oscar voter sometimes they think differently than their European counterparts?
The Oscar voters are an animal unto themselves. You think you know what they're going to vote, and when they make it, there's something about when an Oscar voter, like the Oscar voter that picks the winner, whenever that winner gets chosen, there's something that's vaguely disappointing about it, because the fact that actually all of these films which have been nominated, they've all won this wonderful prize that no one could ever take away from them. They are Oscar nominated. And in a way, that's better than being an Oscar winner. Number one, there's more of them, but also the promise is still there. Because once you win the Oscar, that caps a lot of people's careers, and they find it difficult to come back from, and producers, directors, etc., and actors as well. So I think sometimes the Oscars get it right, meaning they pick who I think should win. I think we all feel that way. I think we feel all very, very personal that if we were Oscar voters, it would just be great films picked all the time. And it's not always, because, like the BAFTAs and all other, the Césars, everything, it is a local award. And it's voted on by people who live locally, although that is changing with the influx of more international people into the voters. And you know that the Golden Globes have a lot of Brazilian voters now.
They do.
They do.
And that's why Fernanda Torres won there for Best Actress. But it's funny that some people might imagine the Oscar voter as someone a bit, a bit older.
Yeah.
And a bit. But I don't know, Karen, about you, because comparing to the BAFTAs or something, there's something quite fresh about the nominations. I think they're taking more risks than perhaps the cliche of the Oscar voter.
I think this year it's not your mama's Oscar ballot. This is the ballot of somebody, or the ballot of people who care about the industry, care about the profile of the industry. And like Sean Baker, for example, he wants to get people into the cinema, not just streaming, but the big screen, the experience. And I think a new generation is really taking that on board as they move up the ladder of being more establishment. So I think the Oscars are getting better and better as far as their scope and their inclusion, and I think also their imagination about what they like. I mean, for example, Flow. Flow did very well, which is a Latvian animation film. You think, wow, can it get more obscure? But it's wonderful.
And I read a story, actually, about Flow, how Latvia is treating the Oscars as World Cup. As Brazil is doing, if I'm still here, that shows the power in a way, right? It's incredible.
It's really important. Hollywood's been going for a long time, and Hollywood is the magic of marketing. It's giving us the glamour that we want in our own lives. And, the number of balls that I know where they're going, ooh, it's a 007 theme ball. Like, really? We love the glamour that Hollywood has given us decade after decade. And that's part of what we love about this illusion that also touches on our reality. That sounds really pretentious, but I think you know what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean. But let's look at some of the nominations. Let's start with the acting one for Best Supporting Actress. I want to know your opinion, because I also have my opinions, because I do think Zoe Saldana from Emilia Perez is the favorite, but I still have a feeling that we could have a surprise with Ariana Grande, for example.
I think we are going to end up with Zoe Saldana. I really do think so. Isabella Rossellini is a fond favorite. People love her. It's just not a big enough role, although her subtlety was powerful. Felicity Jones did a great job in it, and quite an unlovable role in The Brutalist. Monica Barbero. The problem with The Complete Unknown is that it really wasn't released at the right time, and people are kind of like, oh, okay, that's nice. And I think Ariana Grande, who is wickedly funny and wonderful singer and a wonderful actor, and she just has a lightness, silliness of a spirit, and a darker side. If you saw her on Saturday Night Live a few months ago, she could be the dark horse. I think it's either going to be Zoe or Ariana.
And it's interesting if Zoe wins. That shows that, of course, it was very scandalous, the tweets of Carla Sofia Gascon. But in the end, they really, the director came out and they spoke against. They said that they were shocked. What a shame that what happened to the campaign of the film. So Emilia Pérez might end up with a few awards. Not perhaps the big ones like director and picture, but...
No, it's already, going back to the Oscar nominations, it's already a record breaker. 13 nominations for a non-English language film is extraordinary. And that shows the audacity of Audiard and also the craft and the daring and the quality. I mean, Zoe put her whole heart into this. I mean, singing in Spanish and dancing and it's crazy and surreal in so many spots. So I think Hollywood is rewarding that film for its daring and its craft, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Let's go to the supporting actor.
Okay.
And I think this one, I don't know if you agree with me, perhaps that's the easiest one. That is Kieran Culkin for Real Pain. I mean, he's been winning everything.
Yes.
Is there space for anyone else?
Not really. No.
I do love Yuda Borisov for Anora, I have to say.
He was brilliant.
Super well.
Wasn't
super
he good? You didn't think he was acting. You thought, wow, he's just him.
Yeah.
But there's so many good performances there. I mean, Jeremy Strong in The Apprentice, if he hadn't done... if he hadn't already won quite a few things in television, I'm sure that he would have had more of a profile here. Guy Pearce, again, a little hidden in The Brutalist. Edward Norton, probably one of the strongest performances in his career, in a film that actually is becoming a bit weak now as we close in on the final weeks. So yes, I think Kieran Culkin, strong performance of Kieran being as crazy and as daft as we like him to be.
I mean, he looks like he's playing himself as well.
He always looks like he's playing himself.
Yes.
But, we haven't seen him in anything else. So we'll see if he can do something different next time.
Let's go for Best Actor. And before we talk perhaps about the favorite, it's Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice. The Oscars were quite brave in a way to nominate it. First of all, I think he was good. I love that film.
Yeah.
But do you think Trump will be watching the Oscars?
He'd probably have an assistant watching the Oscars. I'm sure he has better things to do. I know that he's really against that film, and the fact that the film made it this far is a major miracle. He's very good in it. I didn't want to watch it particularly, but I've watched it twice now. Yeah. And every time I watch it, I think you're winning me over, Sebastian Stan. Ralph Fiennes is immaculate in Conclave because he carries pretty much that whole film. Coleman Domingo in Sing Sing, the real heart, the real energy, the spark of the film. I mean, Timothée Chalamet did a wonderful job. And as a friend of mine who says he's a bobcat, that means he likes Bob Dylan. I did not know. He said he really loved it. But if you're not a bobcat, maybe you wouldn't really care how well-crafted that performance is. And then Adrian Brody coming back, he's already... Okay, the joke is, it's not a joke, but, he's basically doing the same character they won the Oscar for in The Piano. So, there you go. But I think it's probably going to be Adrian Brody, I hate to say, but I really would like Sebastian Stan to take the award.
I would love that as well. And let's talk about the one that I'm particularly excited about. Best Actress. I mean, Fernanda Torres, which I had the pleasure to interview, she is a Brazilian national hero for I'm Still Here. And you know what? I know Demi Moore could win. I mean, I love her in The Substance. I do think there's a space for Fernanda there. What are the chances? Not just for Fernanda. Who do you think is going to win for Best Actress?
Let's check and see what William Hill says.
Yes.
When you really wonder, go to the bookies because they're usually right because their jobs depend on it. I think Fernanda Torres has got a groundswell of support. She had a market, a trade paper cover recently. I think her marketing scheme is going very well. People are seeing the film. People are talking about the film. I mean, there's great history there. It's a great film. Even if we don't nominate her, it's a wonderful film. It's very meaningful and a difficult, emotional film. Demi, we know her. In fact, at the BAFTA, she was wearing her winner's dress. She looked so amazing. And, of course, she lost to Mikey Madison. But I'm wondering if that producer is sitting somewhere marking his Oscar ballot the person that said to her, "You're a popcorn actress," 30 years ago, and he's going, "Nope, you're still a popcorn actress." So it's very possible that
But it's a powerful story if she wins, right?
Hugely powerful and really wonderful, and we all love her, and she looks great. And she's been doing the rounds and promoting the substance hugely and being a really good sport about the whole thing and caring. I've heard her speak several times about it, and she's riveting. And Mikey Madison, fresh, the the role was written for her. She isn't that character at all when you see her, when she's not playing the character. She's completely different. And she's a fresh face, and she's powerful. She is now the face of indie cinema. I don't want to say she's our Parker Posey, but you know what I mean. So I really do think it's a three-way race. And I think that Fernando Torres has probably got a really wonderful chance.
And I have to mention the 5 films that the actors were nominated, they are on the Best Picture as well nomination. Mm-hmm. And this didn't happen in the Best Actress category for years or decades. So it's a very rare, but that's amazing. It shows how, what do you think?
Very consistent. I think there are times when you see on Best Picture, okay, those pictures, those films, and then you look down and the actors don't match the films, and you're thinking, what's the being really picky, choosy kind of thing? But the fact that we've got this sort of matching, the many nominations for films, I think it shows a real consistency in what we're seeing, the variety of what we're seeing, as we said before, but also the quality that we're recognizing. I don't think there's really anybody's really been left out.
Best Director.
Oh, I would say, okay, I think Brady, it's Corbet, isn't it? I want to call him Brady Corbett. I think he will win. I would love Coralie Fargeat to win.
I would love that.
But I think we could have a surprise and have Sean Baker.
Okay. It's a film that's, apparently The Brutalist was favored for Best Picture, but more recently everybody's talking about Anora again.
PGA and DGA.
I think Best Picture, I genuinely don't know who's going to win. It could be The Brutalist, it could be Anora. I wonder Conclave even.
Yeah, well, I mean, I enjoyed Conclave because it just reminded me of all those old Vatican movies I used to watch with my mom, Shoes of a Fisherman with Gregory Peck or whoever it was. I think what could happen, we could have a split. Best Picture is Anora and Best Director is Brady Corbett. I don't think it's going to be the same. I'm going to sink myself now. I don't think the Best Director and Best Picture are going to match.
That's fantastic. And production design, we have to say, is for Wicked, right?
Yeah, not just because I worked on it, because
it's good.
The sets were real. They were huge. Even Ariana Grande said, Nathan Crowley's wonderful sets. I'm like, yeah, good for you. Yeah, although it is a very, very strong year for production design. The Brutalist was beautiful on a very, very small budget. The Conclave looked amazing. And the VFX of June, which is part of production design, was amazing. And I have to say, although I felt that Nosferatu was too long, it was beautiful.
It was beautiful. Thank you very much, Karen. And the Oscars are taking place in LA this Sunday, the 2nd of March. This show was edited by Elliot Greenfield, and thank you very much for listening, and enjoy the Oscars.